from your perspective and your experience as a scout and now an agent and being around the game for as long as you have, what seems to be the most difficult part about trying to project how a quarterback is going to fare in the NFL? Like, why do we have such a difficult time, picking the right guy?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of nuance to that. And I think there's two key issues in my mind. One, the college game is so different from the NFL game in many respects. Just keeping it kind of simple. So many of the college offenses, a quarterback sits in shotgun. He doesn't have to call a play in the huddle. He looks to the line of scrimmage, and the coaches then relay the play in, and the quarterback then calls the cadence, may have a 2-man route, maybe a 3-man route, and then he runs the ball if he doesn't deliver it. He doesn't have to call the play in the huddle. He doesn't have to ID the mic on the defense. And in too many cases, really doesn't have to work through much of a progression because it's all kind of predetermined, fields cut in half. Well, the pro game is just completely different. They do have to call plays in the huddle. They do have to understand fronts and all that. They have to work through progressions. And, oh, by the way, they get 25 seconds. The college game has impacted the pro game greatly. We see so much more pre-snap movement. There's just so much going on. And the truth is, it takes time for these guys to get comfortable, which leads to the second piece. And I think having a winning culture is paramount for a young quarterback. And I haven't done a super in-depth study on this, but I would say that probably most of the bust in the first round for quarterbacks is they had to play on a team that lacked a winning culture. You look at Kansas City, and I can remember Patrick Mahomes hearing GMs and scouts rave about his upside and his tools and his talent, but also cautioning that he might need 2 years of development. And what did he do? He sat all but the last game, but he was in a winning culture. And when he started playing, he was a great player. Whereas other guys go into a culture that's not winning. I live in Chicago. Chicago's obviously in the news with the first pick, and maybe they haven't won a lot of games to this point, but Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus have built a foundation so that if they do take Caleb Williams, he's coming in to a roster that has been developed for 2 years. Bryce Young didn't get that luxury. CJ Stroud did. They had been building that roster, and they brought CJ in a time, maybe the Bears bringing Caleb in a time where there are enough good players around him, and if you think about it, a rookie quarterback probably isn't going to work through a progression 1 to 5 with 5 receivers out. He's probably going to, by and large, get 1, 2, and maybe 3. Well, if the first read is not open and the second read is not open, boy, does that put a lot of pressure on that guy, right? And so I go back to Ryan Poles and the Bears, give him credit. Like, he recognized, hey, we've got one good one in DJ Moore, but now you add Keenan Allen, you have 2 tight ends. So whoever the quarterback is, when he hits his 5th step, his chances of having his first read, second read open are far greater than the Carolina Panthers quarterback had last year. And so many of these young quarterbacks don't have that luxury. And if you don't have the guys open, and now you're having to scramble, you're having to buy time. And if you can't throw the ball in rhythm on time, you're getting hit in the mouth a lot. And, it takes a toll, especially when you're, as a young quarterback, not 100% sure of where you're going to go with the ball every snap. So I think it takes time for quarterbacks to develop. And I just go back to that second piece. Having a winning culture is enormous for a young quarterback, just enormous. And some of these teams, not going to call anybody out, but some of these teams in the top, let's say 10, 12 picks, really don't have that winning culture in place. And we're going to watch them draft a quarterback. And I would tell you, if we could play this clip in 4 or 5 years, it's not going to be all that surprising who is successful and who isn't. And then one last piece of that is the pressure to play these guys because the money's so big, right? It takes a strong owner, a strong head coach, a strong general manager to say, hey, we are not going to play this guy the first X amount of weeks or even the first season. These guys, many of them need to be redshirt